My name is... We try again. Wow. This is exciting. My name is Paul Reeves. I'm not the ex-Governor General, neither am I a hologram, although I'm told that the photo of me in the brochure looks like one, but I'm in the flesh. I've been part of the organising committee for this convention, and at the outset we said we wanted to have the best speakers we could attract, and we wanted to showcase the very best in Northland. And with our next presenter, I think we've got a double banger. RobinGrieve is from Northland. He's been in Toastmasters for 25 years. He's attained heights that most of us could only dream about. He's won the Humorous Speech Contest for District 72. 3 times he's been a winner of the International Speech Contest for District 72. And in 2011, he was one of 9 finalists in the international competition, the World Championships. So we have the very best with us tonight. Robin's noted for his humour, and he's going to talk about humour tonight. I'm told 2 of his characteristics are that he can laugh at himself and he never gives up. He has amazing self-belief. So I'd like you to welcome to the stage this evening, Robin.
Thank you very much, the other Paul Reeves, or the Paul Reeves of the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you, I wonder, have ever thought, none of you, but never mind. Because I have. In fact, I was thinking about all the thoughts I've never had, simply because I never thought of them, when all of a sudden I had one. Now, what that thought was, I've got no idea, because it was about 25 years ago. And the reason I mentioned it tonight was not about the thought. It was because I think, if that wasn't, it was almost the first joke I ever wrote for a Toastmasters speech. So it was a little bit clumsy, cumbersome, a little bit wieldy and deliberate, I suppose, but it still works. And I thought I'd give it to you tonight, just to show you, to explain to you where I'm coming from as far as humour. Now, the topic of tonight's workshop is creating humour for your speeches. Now, humour's always been important to me. It's something I've used all my life through Toastmasters. It's been essential for me to put in a humour into speeches. It's something I've done. It relaxes. We heard Mike talking earlier on. It relaxes the audience. It relaxes you. For some reason or other, and this is quite irrational really, but everyone trusts you if you're funny. You trust a funny person for some reason. Laughter opens the soul. It opens the mind. The assault of laughter, nothing stands against. That was Mark Twain's quote. And what he was getting at, what he was basically saying is, whoever it was, no, anybody could walk in those doors now, be the grumpiest, most upset, most stressed person in the world, and you're there, number 7 speech, you're going to talk about your trip to Brazil. Now, he's not going to be very interested in your trip to Brazil with all the stuff that's going on in his life, but if you can make him laugh, this is what happens. And what we're going to talk tonight about is about humour. Humour is a trick, and I'm sorry if you don't understand the trick now, because you're soon going to understand it, and it's going to ruin all humorous speeches from this point on. But humour is a trick of words, a trick of something. And what that does is it sparks a physiological change in the body of the person listening, the mind and the body. It's physiological, it's a physical thing. Changes them physically, and they laugh. And so that's quite a scary thing, thinking you could get up here and say something which is going to change someone physically. So it is a really important tool. Most importantly, I think, pretty definitely, in fact, Mike might make that point, if you want to get up here for some reason, to make a point, to achieve something, the best way to do that is through humour. It's the interesting thing for me, because I just did it naturally. I got up, I'm not a particularly funny person, but I could be funny when I spoke, so I just did it. And I've only just recently realised why I've used humour and why I pursued it so fervently. And it's quite disappointing for me. Because what it was is, we're all Toastmasters, or most of it, we know what it's about. When you get up and stand in front of a group of people, that's not normal. Back in the day, the only time anyone would be in front of a group of people would be at a stoning. So you stand here, I'm up here, you're down there, it's not normal. So I make it normal by speaking. So as long as I'm speaking and you're down there, it's all normal. But as soon as you start to feel it, it's getting tense, isn't it? Feel it. So what happens is, that's why speakers get so nervous, because you know that it's only going to be normal up here as long as you're speaking. So the most important thing is you've got to know what you're going to say. What happens if I can't remember what I'm going to say? Then I'm going to be up here and there's going to be zzz because I won't know what I say. So for me, it was more than that. It wasn't just wanting to know what or say something and that would make it normal. For me, it had to be normal if I knew the audience was with me, so getting it, laughing. If I could make the audience laugh, that's how I got through. So I wasn't a confident speaker at all. I was probably least confident of anybody because I had to have people laughing or else I was in a situation. So that's what I did. And I pursued the laughter. And it wasn't long before I got to enter the humorous speech contest. Topic of the weekend, isn't it? Humorous speech contest. We've got some competitors in the humorous speech contest. Or are you all out studying your... Right. The first year I entered it, I got through and got to district and got second. Now, second's probably the worst position you get in any competition. If you don't get anywhere, well, you go off and do something else and find something you're good at. If you win, of course you win, but second, wow, the judges probably won't get it right anyway. You feel a lot like a frog. You've just been kissed and turned into a handsome prince. I need to find out you're Prince Charles. You're happy you're not a frog anymore. You're Prince Charles. So second is one of those positions where, yes, it's comforting, but it's not quite. You're a bit confused about it. So what I did, second, all right, can't have that, go back again. Next year, went through the district final, second again. This was starting to get a little bit serious. But, well, I must be good. It's not quite good enough. So third year, third district, second again. We could go on all night because it was only 4 times in a row that I got second. 3 of them were against 2 of the New Zealanders who won the World Championship of Public Speaking, so that's just luck, isn't it? That's great. But it was luck, in fact, because this was starting to get serious for me. I had to win this thing. After the 5th year, I did win it, the 5th year. But in that 4 years, or 5 years, I became very serious about humour. It wasn't just, I'd run out of all my jokes anyway. It wasn't about just getting up and being funny. I had to fervently find a joke. And if you all know what a humorous speech contest, it's one joke after another. It's done as a speech, a story, but they're basically jokes. When I use the term joke, speech-wise, we're talking punchlines as opposed to the Irishman walking to the bar, but you know the point. So it was becoming very serious, and I had to study humour. I had to learn what actually is humour. In fact, I still don't even know. I mean, I don't think anyone can tell you what is humour. What is humour? Can anyone tell me?
When somebody else laughs.
Well, that's a bit like saying what's rain is when somebody else gets wet. Sorry, do we have an answer?
Not being too serious.
It'd be funny. Yeah, what is funny? I mean, it's what is humour? We don't know really what it is. We know the effect effect is it makes us laugh. So I suppose I had to try and study what humour is. So what tonight you're going to get in my 40 minutes or thereabouts is 5 years of my life all packaged up and telling you what I learned in developing humour. What I did was a whole year writing jokes. I had a notebook with me. Everywhere I went, someone would say something, I go, that could be a joke. And I'd write it down. Or I have an idea, I'd write it down. I'd be lying in bed at night, waiting to go to sleep. Oh, to get an idea. So the light would come on, annoy the hell out of my wife, and I'd write something down, and it was usually very long and in the morning rubbish. And I'd throw it away. But the point being, I wrote things down, and what I actually achieved tonight is show you the things that you can hear. Because in a bar, a party, people are a little bit loose with their talking, and they say things, and you go, that could be a joke. That sort of thing. So and I'll give you, tonight my aim is to be able to give you those things so you can listen for them. So that's what I did, and I'd write these things, and then I'd work out which ones could become jokes, and then, of course, when you're writing your speech, you had to work out which ones of those jokes were of any use during it that you created your story around. And one thing I will say is, in those days, the humour speech contest was held around about September. I don't know, maybe it hasn't changed, I don't know, because it's only November now, but September. So you're trying to write speeches through that July-August period. I was a dairy farmer. Any dairy farmers know how humorous you feel in July, August and September. Humour wasn't the natural thing. You weren't going around, oh, I'm really feeling humorous today. It was a serious business. So that's what the point I want to stress, that it's a serious business. It is an absolutely great thing to be able to do. You don't have to be a funny person. If you say, oh, I'm no good at humour, that sort of thing. Well, this is the point of tonight, is to showing you how to go about creating some humour. And so that's what we're going to do. I think I left my, it's over there. Excuse me, I've got to go over here, get my thing, and come back over here. But we said a little bit about what humour was, and that it makes people laugh. You know what laughing is? Yes. Laughing is a physiological response to humour. It consists of two things: a gesture and a silly sound. When we laugh, the brain pressures us to conduct both these activities at the same time. And when we laugh heartily, changes occur in many parts of the body, even the arm, leg, and the trunk muscles. You know what it's like? Under certain conditions, our bodies perform what the Encyclopedia Britannica describes as a rhythmic, vocalised, expiratory, and involuntary actions. 15 facial muscles contract. The stimulation of the zygomatic major muscle, that's the muscle that lifts the top of your face, your lip, occurs. Meanwhile, the respiratory system is upset by the epiglottis half closing the larynx. So the air intake occurs irregularly, making you gasp. In extreme circumstances, the tear ducts are activated, so that while the mouth is opening and closing in a desperate struggle to try to get oxygen, the face becomes moist and red, or even purple at times. And the noises that accompany this bizarre behaviour range from sedate giggles to boisterous guffaws. So it's quite a painful experience. And I thought I'd just see if you can recognise some of those things in there, if I can get this thing to click on us. There we go. Just a little short demonstration of what laughing is about. Enjoy this. painful, isn't it, really? Yeah. If you get one of them in your audience, you're in a lot of trouble. They're an extra minute on your humour speech. So that's what laughter does. And you can see how it relaxes all those things we talked about, the pain. In fact, the studies have shown there's very little difference between sheer emotion of joy and sheer emotion of unjoy, whatever the word is, when you're in what facial moves move. So okay, so that's our mission, make people laugh. How do we do that? Well, there's 3 reasons that people laugh. All right? There's called the relief theory, the superiority theory, and the incongruity theory. Now, when I say theory, they're not one theory, one or the other. These all 3 factors work. So I suppose when I say theory, they still call them theory because they may not physically know, but these are just ideas that the philosophers have gone through and said people laugh for these 3 reasons. The relief theory, the theory there is that people laugh to expend energy. So in other words, you're in a highly stressful, energised situation. I suppose the most obvious one would be you're in a sort of pre-dinner thing with a few people you don't really know or like, you know, and you're sort of doing a bit of small talk. You know, people say things and none of it's very funny, but everyone laughs a little bit, you know, does that sort of thing. That's relief theory. But where it relates to a speaker is if you're going to bring the emotion on. Now, I don't really like speakers who bleed all over the stage, but if you're going to hit a little bit of emotion in there, put some emotion story in there in a speech, the relief theory humour comes in there. And I'll give you an example later on during the presentation of a speech that I did where I used that. It's not something you use particularly often, but when people are built with energy from the stress or the emotion that you're pouring out to them, and then you put the tiny twist in there, the humorous trick, and they'll just explode with laughter, and it's because of the stress behind it. The other one's the superiority theory. I think I heard a joke from Mike about that one. That's the Irishman walked into the bar. Now, this is the theory that these people are inferior to you. You're superior to them, so you laugh at them. I know that sounds a bit mean, but that's what we do. The Irishman walks into a bar. Now, we know that this Irishman in this joke is going to be one of the most stupid Irishmen in Ireland, and they're not particularly bright anyway. And so that's why the joke is funny. So you've got a stereotype you can use there about the Irishman. Obviously we've got Australians, we can lay that into there. I mean, I don't like bagging Australians. I like Australians for me. I mean, the thing with Australians, they gave us one of the greatest inventions of all time, the Falcon car. Yeah, I've always had one, and thank God the Australian taxpayer has been lumbering hundreds of millions of dollars every year to subsidise my car for me, I thank you. Sorry it's all coming to an end, but when I go to Australia, I drive a Falcon like I do here, and it's the same of course, apart from the number plate. And the other thing that's slightly different between the two, the Aussie Falcon and the New Zealand Falcon, and your Falcon and my Falcon at home, and you'll probably, if you've got one, you'll see the same. On the outside mirror, it says, caution, objects in this mirror appear closer. Have you seen that in there? Yeah. Well, the Aussie Falcon doesn't have that. It says, caution, objects in this mirror are behind you. That's a superiority theory. All right? So you're using a joke, and the jokes, the next stage I'm going to go through the actual particular techniques you use, but it'll be one of these 3 things, or a combination of. You could have a joke, a laughter that's brought about because of a combination of relief theory and superiority theory. Incongruity theory, well, what that one is, that's something changes. A straight process becomes the bizarre, or something happens in a situation which isn't normal. I'll give you an example. I've got one here. What a happy ending though. There you go. Isn't that a happy ending? There you go. So that's incongruity. So ducks walk along all the time. There was no grid there. So it's just as well. And something something different happens. and none. Trips over and says, bugger. Yeah, it's hilarious because it's not right. It's an incongruent situation. Okay, so they're the three reasons. When you laugh, it's because of one of those or the others. Now, why you laugh at those ducks? Incongruity, possibly even a little bit of superiority theory, as this duck was washing undignified through the drains there, or through the concrete. Okay, so what we do, techniques that we can use. Slapstick. Right, the old slapstick humour. This is a good one for children. If you've really got a hard audience, hit them with some slapstick. The clown nose, trip over, throw your notes around. The only time I blatantly used it was, I started and I said, I went and got one of my white shirts and I poured blue ink all over the pocket, And then I got up and spoke and then I said, I was getting a bit hot. I said, nothing's gone wrong today. It's been one of those days, absolutely everything's gone beautiful and everything. I take my jacket off and of course here's my big stain there. So you got to set, because the thing with these things is about setting it up. So the thing with slapstick, it's a cheap type of humour, can work in some situations. It's obviously the simplest form, I think. It goes with it a little bit as overstatement, exaggeration. That's another way where you overstate something or exaggeration. Americans like this, I think. I was in a small town the other day, and it was so small. The entry and exit signs are on the same pole. It's just exaggeration. You're exaggerating things, and slapstick tends to be a little bit like that too. If you trip over, it's an exaggerated trip. That's what you do with that one. The next one is understatement. It's a little bit cleverer, I think. A little bit subtler. You want to be a bit more subtle. This may not get the laugh, the understatement, but it can build the laugh. I did a speech about hearing a lion. It was a true statement for somebody else, a true story for someone else is going to say. And in my speech, I say how I opened the door and I took a step out in the morning air. I kicked the plant. And that's when I heard it. I heard a sound that caused me to stop dead in my tracks. For it was a sound that had no place been heard on a dairy farm in Northland. I heard the nerve-jangling roar of a lion. Now for me this posed a problem. I didn't have any lions on my farm. So what we got there, you got a lion, it causes you a problem, that's the understatement. Now what it does, if you hit it with a laugh afterwards, don't have any lions on my farm, you get the first glance, the humorous thing at the beginning, then gives greater impact to the joke that you bring in second to that. That's understatement. It's subtle. And of course, one of the things I was going to say, when you're doing humour, you don't have to be getting laughs all the time. People are enjoying it. People are getting it. That's enough. Make the audience connect the dots. This is a strange one, this one. This is where the audience have to do some thinking. Because that's one thing you've got to remember about speaking. You speak at 130 words a minute, something like that. The audience thinks there's 1,000 words a minute. So they're way ahead of you, second guessing, you're thinking all the time. And this is what you're doing, this is what you're playing on. You're trying to control their thoughts and that sort of thing. So in this one, the audience have to make a connection. Now, there's a joke. Man goes to the doctor. And the doctor says, I've got bad news. You've got cancer and you've got Alzheimer's. So the man says, thank goodness I haven't got cancer. A couple of options there. Superiority complex. I mean, Alzheimer's is a cheap shot, really. I mean, they forget things. And so you can, forgetting things is funny, so you can use that one. But the fact is, if I'd said, man goes to the doctor, you've got bad news. You've got cancer, and then you've got Alzheimer's. But because the man had Alzheimer's, he'd forgotten he had cancer, and he said, thank goodness I haven't got cancer. Not as funny, is it? In fact, it's not funny at all. Because you had to make the connection. See? It was you doing the thinking. I did a speech about a debate that I was involved in the young farmers a long time ago. And I was talking about, and this is true, what actually happened, we were in this debate. The topic was that life begins at 40. So we're in the debate, and we had decided, we'd learnt from a sexologist that for women, they reach their sexual peak at age 40. What's more, they have a sexually related thought every 6 minutes. This was great, because we spoke for 7. Now, there's nothing funny about that. Apart from what you connected in there. You created something. Some chap thinks he's going to have a chance with a 40-year-old woman, or they're going to be thinking sexual thoughts while I'm up there. I mean, I don't know what you were thinking. Only you know that. But you had to connect the dots, and that was caused. That's a humorous thing that can happen there. I'll give you. It comes in later, but I'll give it now in case I forget. Morgan MacArthur. Some of you must have remembered Morgan MacArthur. He's an American world champion. He does a speech about his driving a big truck. It's all exaggerated. Driving a big truck. He's going on about this big truck, and he says, 18 wheels. My dog. And he just, he just stops. And then the audience make up a story about his dog. The danger of that one, of course, is that he hasn't finished the joke yet. And I'll deal with this later. He hasn't finished the joke, so he's got to come in now with something which has got to be funnier, or it's funny because he's just had the laugh from the audience. So get the audience to think about things, connect the dots. Sarcasm, irony. Don't we like this one? Sarcasm is the lowest form of humour, they say. It's probably just really the crudest form of irony. Irony is a great incongruity one. You say something, you mean another. We're bucketing with rain out there. Oh, great day, isn't it? That's irony. Sarcasm. Only you can give me what I really want. Your absence. Sarcasm is mean. Sorry, I don't know how to look at it, really. Sarcasm is mean, it's aggressive. That's why they call it the lowest form of humour. You've got to be careful who you're sarcastic against. But irony definitely is something you can work on. The derailed train. This is the most easiest one in congruity theory. What it is you're telling a story, and then you change the story. You derail the thought. People have a thought while you're talking, they're thinking, and then you derail it, you change it. I was staring into the mean and hairy face of my first rugby coach, Mrs. Ball. It's so simple, isn't it? It's just. Your number 8, she said, bellowing at me, indicating I should take my place in this practice scrum that she has formed. Then I went, push, came the cry, and push we did, and oh, oh. I pulled a groin muscle. That's so painful. So I was really glad it wasn't mine. It's so easy to derail the train. It's what can happen, of course, you've got to build on things, you've got to catch them where they're not going to catch it. If you get too forecast in it, they're thinking, oh, well, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. You're weaving the story, and you can catch on to something. But build into your stories, you flesh it up. I love skiing, I do skiing. Yeah. And we had this late snow, it's been awesome fun. And what I enjoy most is talking to people on the chairlift. It's one of the most, do you enjoy that part? They took a bit of shoving on my part. I tell you, the last ride up, I was sitting between these two identical blonde twins. These brothers from Germany. You see, you got it. You knew I was going to do that, didn't you? But you still laughed. It's a trick. It's a trick. That makes a physiological change in the body. So that's what you do with the derailed train. The incongruent statement. This would be, and I can't do it in a Toastmasters meeting, but this would be the nun where she tripped over saying something worse than bugger. Or just say something a little bit rude. We're in a formal setting, we're all nice. If I said something rude about you, that would be an incongruent statement. Don't take it personally. But I won't. But that's what you can do. You can be a little bit rough, a little bit, Paul introducing me, I can say, oh, thanks, Paul, if that's the best you can do. Incongruent statement. So it's just something a little bit bold and brassy. Obviously know your audience and that sort of style, but that's what you can do with the incongruent statement. Now, just not sure what's coming. Oh, it's self-deprecation. Yeah. You're the butt of the jokes. You can poke fun of yourself all day. If you're a man, you can poke fun at men all day. If you're a woman, you can poke fun at women all day. I wouldn't suggest for a moment that any man, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? But we love women, they have a sense of humour, but I would never use, that's the self-deprecation thing goes, if you attack somebody else, then the audience goes out against you. And you, Mike, you gave a great example of the audience going out against the speaker. It's happened to me once. I didn't realise that live tape was gay. And I didn't realise I was doing this job. It was a disaster. But anyway, you sort of, you can be the butt of the joke, but no one else. Malapropisms, that's where you throw in the wrong word. Again, you've got to be, the audience have to know what's going on here. Did you make that mistake on purpose or not? I know there's sceptics amongst you. I did a whole speech. One of my failed attempts to get the humorous speech title was Malapropisms. It was called The Incontinent Toastmaster. The audience were laughing before I even started. I was on a winner. Just the judges didn't see it that way, but it was basically the whole speech was a story just using malapropisms, and they're falling off their chairs. It was just, just a trick. That's all that was. Okay, now we're going to do a little exercise because I'm going to try. This has never been done in Waitangi. We've done it now with reasonable success. It's never been done in Waitangi. We're going to write a joke. Okay, so maybe we're not going to do that 6 little groups thing because that took Mike ages and you're bigger. So I don't think I haven't got his command to be able to get you to do that. So what we're going to do is this group and this group. This is how you do an exaggeration. Okay, like remember the small town, the entry and exit signs are on the same pole. Okay, so how do we make an exaggeration joke? What you do is you pick a noun. Okay, it can be any noun, it can be a proper noun, any noun, improper noun, noun. What about a noun? Who wants to throw out a noun?
Pickle.
A pickle. There's a pickle you. Pickle. Okay, pickle. Let's have a go at that. Then you choose an attribute of that pickle. That noun. Something about that noun.
It's colour.
It's
colour.
It's colour. Okay, so hang on. Oh, yeah, that's supposed to be good. We'll just give this a go, shall we? Pickle. It's colour. That's an attribute. What other attributes does it have?
Bumpy.
Bumpy.
Squishy.
Squishy. Bumpy.
Tasty.
Squishy.
Yeah.
Excuse my writing, I'm a doctor's son. What was the other one?
Taste.
Tasty.
Tasty. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, tasty. Now, we can choose one attribute. We're going to choose one of them. Now, what you need to do in order to do this, and you can do this exercise, is you need to exaggerate the attribute, not the pickle, but the attribute. So, this is a way to do it. Think about persons that relate to that colour, or that bumpy, or the squishy, or the tasty. Think about places that relate to it, or things. So, have a think. I'm going to give you a minute. Think about, and then I'm going to ask you to call these out. We'll see if we can create a joke about this. Okay? So, think about it. People who are... Well, let's choose an attribute. What would you like to choose first? We're going to choose an attribute first.
Squishy.
Tasty. You're going to do... This group's going to do tasty. Okay? And what's the other group going to do?
Squishy.
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 Okay. Right. So you need a person... Squishy people. Tasty people. Yeah. Think about people that are tasty or squishy. Can you think about...
It's got to be Angelina.
Angelina's tasty or squishy, which... Right?
Places.
Kim.com.
Oh, Kim.com is squishy. Okay. So we've got Kim.com.
He isn't a pickle.
What about a place that's squishy or tasty? Oh, Angelina Jolie. Now we've got Angelina.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. Okay, so we've got 3 people. That's all right. That's for a start. What about a place that's squishy or tasty. Or thing. Cheese would have to be tasty, wouldn't it? Place?
Tomato sauce.
No, a place. A thing. Yeah, okay. Tomato sauce.
Motueka.
Swamp.
Ponson B.
Mud puddle.
Motueka.
Okay. All right, we've got a people, we've got a place, we've got a thing. Now, what we're going to do is try to create a story about it's tasty, okay, about the pickle, using that. So I ate a pickle. They were so tasty. Made Angelina Jolie look like Kim.com. Something like that. Yeah. I wrote that day. Somebody else should write that day. Squishy. So I ate a pickle. Remember the story's about the pickle. So now we're using these things. I ate a pickle. It was so squishy. You want to think about something you can use? Tomato sauce.
Angeline.
The tomato. You've done Angeline. Well, bad it. I ate a pickle. It was so squishy. The tomato sauce bottle felt like Brad Pitt's ribs. Something like that. All right, you sort of created a joke. I think I did half the work, but never mind. But you see what you do. So, yes, you got one, Tracy.
Yeah, I had a pickle that was so sharp I thought I was listening to RobinGrieve.
Oh, there you go. Right. Okay. Well, that was so that's a little bit like a creative joke about exaggeration. It sort of works in terms of you might need to get a few more names or a few more things, but gives you an idea and a focus. But remember, once you've got the noun, then you've got the attribute, and then you go to the, you exaggerate the attribute. Well, let's do one more. Let's talk about this one. The derailed train. This is when the blonde, okay? This is bald. Set up the first part of the joke. This is when how you write a derailed train joke. You make an assumption about that. So you assumed that my rugby coach was a man, didn't you? Yeah? Who wants to throw out a story? First line. Just say something. I did something yesterday. What did you do? I caught a pound of whitebait. Okay. So what's the assumption? What's the assumption? Assumption is you're out there with the whitebait net.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something we can change.
And you did it legally.
You did it legally. Pound. Can we change the pound around? Can we change the pound? So the thing is, you had to make an assumption. We're assuming that you're there with your little net, catching whitebait. Okay, so we make that assumption. So that's what you do. Is you look at the assumptions that people are making and they're thinking about, and then you go to change that. So then the connector is, I caught a pound of whitebait, so you were the one that caught it. And then what you want to do is to flip that assumption. Okay, so what's catch? I caught something, I caught a coal.
The bag flew out of the car window or something like that.
Yeah? Okay. Caught to me implies someone's running away from you, doesn't it? Yeah, so maybe we could get a joke there. Yeah. I caught a pound of whitebait, they were running down the road. Something like that. So what you do is you've got to reinterpret the assumption, and then you go into making the story, and then you get the punchline. Okay, so you see how it works? Well, let's do one more. What's another story? What's that? What's another story? Someone did something yesterday. You had a ride on a train. Oh, no. I don't know if that's a really good one, but let's do that. Different audience maybe. But you see...
4-year-olds are in the audience.
Yes. I don't think we'll even finish on time, but you see how it works now, because when you're at your party, or when you're in the bar and you're thinking about ideas for a joke, someone says something at a ride on a train, and you're immediately flipping over the assumptions that could have happened. Right?
She's not funny.
Could have been, right? And then you just create the new story. Okay, so it's about thinking about assumptions, yeah? I took my father out to dinner. Well, you assume he's alive. You assume he wasn't in an urn. You assume a lot of things. I don't know. You make some assumptions all the time and try to list all the assumptions you can make. But what will happen is you can either do cold and get a story and then try to list all the assumptions, or you just wait till you hear something like that. Like, go to ride on a train. Thank you for that. Okay, now we've got some techniques. We've written a couple of jokes. You dress it up a little bit. So we've got the jokes. We don't want to signal them too much. So how do we dress them up? How do we make them good? Well, there's a thing called an audience dynamic. People are different audiences. You've sat in an audience and there's a funny guy up here and no one's laughing. You've been there? And you're going, what? You're laughing. But you're one of them. There's some chemistry in there. Laughing is a social thing. You tend to laugh more when you're grouped than you would on your own. But anyway, so there is a thing called an audience dynamic. So it's a little bit different to speaking individually. So you've got to try to connect with the audience, and you do that. I'll just flip to the next one. The last one, you use your best stuff first. So when you get up to tell a joke, do your humour, you've got your jokes in order. This is the best one, this is the worst one. Do the best one first. Because the next thing you're going to have is a thing called a rhythm. When I did my humorous speeches, 15 seconds between jokes. That was my target. And I never caught on to this until I was doing a gig once, and I said something, and they all burst into laughter. And there was nothing I said was funny at all. Nothing at all. It was just the fact that it was time for a joke. I had them laugh, talk, 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 laugh, talk, 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 laugh, talk, 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 and then they laugh. So getting the rhythm. Timing, comedic timing they call it. I can't give you too many technical things about timing. One of the things you realise about timing is that if you want to learn about speaking, learn about listening. Speaking is a conversation. So I'm up here doing most of the talking, but you're conversing back to me. You're coming back to me with stuff. So I say things you think about. So when you're cracking a joke, you have to give the appropriate time, and sometimes it could be longer or less or shorter than a normal conversational thing. I talk about my man speech. I talked about man. They have 3 roles. They call them the 3 Fs. Feeding, fighting, and
Fishing.
rather than children, actually it was, but point being you had to do that delay to get the comedy there. So if you're correct, waiting for the punchline, people have to come to think about it. So think about speaking as a conversation. You use pause quite a lot, either longer or shorter than normal to get the laugh. Use your best stuff first, as I said. You need to give people permission to laugh. You know, getting up and you know, I know Mike said it, and he's right. There's virtually no place that humour isn't appropriate. You know, maybe John Key when he's talking to people at the Pike River, not. But in most cases, in the cases that we find ourselves, you can use humour, but if they don't know it, you know, you're getting up and you're doing a seminar on liver biopsies. Yeah, slap a bit on the table, yeah. There we go, right? This is our dinner for after the talk, you know. You've got to get quite open out there, you've got to get quite involved to get that humour to start with, that's what you've got to do. So give them permission to laugh, which is, yes, it's okay, this is going to be funny, you can laugh. Unless you're purposely wanting to train the audience, don't be afraid of that. Smart audiences, they don't have to be laughing, it's not a rugby club. You know, you can say things and they're going, oh yes, it's funny, and then they catch on to you. And 20 minutes in, they're yours and laughing at everything. So you don't have to get a laugh, as long as you know that it wouldn't get a laugh. Make sure you're encouraging the laugh. If you've got a nice, clean, open face, was it like that? You know, if you're frowning at them, they're going to be frowning back at you. You want a nice, open face, nice, smiling, open face, but just don't overdo it. The double bang. I've heard someone call me a double bang. A double bang, this is the ultimate. This is where, when the incongruent statement was serious story, you know, I'm staring in the face of my rugby coach, you know, Mrs. Paul, that's right. So I've gone from the serious to the sublime or the bizarre to get the joke. If you can get the joke, and then twist it on the joke. So you go from the serious, you bring in the bizarre, get the laugh, and then you go again. Bang, bang. Now, I don't think I've ever managed to achieve it, but I possibly have, but I can't remember any. But that's the ultimate. If you can think about getting that laugh to build up, possibly that a half laugh and then a big laugh. But go for don't just go from the obvious. If you can think about two funny situations and bring the incongruence between them. The callback. This is where you say you set up a joke once and then you get 2 or 3 hits out of it. I did in my speech about my son leaving home. I was talking about how how did I start it? So he was leaving, and I talked about it related to eagles. You know, eagles kick their young out of the nest and away they go. And I'm thinking, well, why don't we do that? You know, I said, there's my wife. I looked at, that's right, I was talking about the eagle, and they say that the young leave, and they do it all over again and start again with new offspring. So I looked at my wife. She was petting the cat. I thought, maybe I should suggest to her that we get another cat. So you get a joke there. And then I say, I definitely don't want 2 cats. And then later on in the speech, I'm going on about how we're doing okay. My son's gone, my wife and I, we're getting to know each other again, it's going all right, and we're doing okay, my wife and I, and the 2 cats. So you get the call back. So you've done the setup, you get the second joke again. So that's a good one. Now we're finishing up here. So the relief theory. This is where you strike the emotion, right? If you want to do a bit of dripping blood on the stage here, you get down here. And then this is a speech, Malign speech. Malign speech was all about unexpected twists in life. All right? And I talk about all the different things which could be, because I heard a lion, which is not really expected. So that was just an example. Then I go about all the different things that could happen to you. And I say, it could be this, it could be that, or it could be it's the dead of night, and there's a thunderous knock on the door, and it's the police, and your teenage son isn't home yet. And the time you take to get to the door, you've taken yourself to that place of dread. You know the worst has happened. You can barely summon the strength to open the door, to look at the policeman that you don't want to see, so he can tell you what you don't want to hear. And there's your son, standing sheepishly by the policeman. Your son, the hairiest, unkempt, shabby member of the family. It's only the most beautiful sight in the world. And you just can't wait to kill him. So what you do there, you see, you wasted energy on my son. You know, you thought he was dead, didn't you? So you're getting all, but and if he'd been dead, well then it was okay, because then you could grieve, because there's somewhere for the energy to go. But no, he wasn't dead. So you've got energy in there that you've got to get out. And that clip's on YouTube, and it really hit home to me, because obviously whoever was sitting by the camera that filmed it, I don't know who filmed it, but at that laugh, I actually heard an explanation of air and noise at the same time. So it's actually just a real pent-up emotion and goes with the laugh. So that's what you can do with a relief theory, but it's most important. If you are going to take people down that dark hole, you've got to give them relief to get them out of it. And that's where you can get reward for your relief theory. Have a go. There's no better audience than a Toastmasters audience. Anyone who's spoken to Toastmasters will know everything is forgivable. They love it. Have a go. Develop your own style. You know, like we talked about the different types of humour, relief, superiority, and incongruity, and different techniques you can use. But see which ones you like. When you're watching, what sort of comedy do you like on TV? If that's a comedy you like, that's probably the comedy you're going to be good at. So focus on that. Try to create some jokes, write some new jokes about things like that. Practice it and refine it, and you might get to enjoy audiences like these. And this is a great feeling when you're standing up in front of a group of people and they're laughing like that. You know, it's tremendously rewarding, it's relaxing, it's feedback to you. Just thoroughly enjoying it, makes all the work worthwhile. And if you're really lucky, you'll get someone like this. Come on in, man. This is the person who can really stuff your timing up in a humour speech contest. much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. And good luck with November.
Well, thank you very much, Robin. Inspirational. I didn't realise humour was such a serious business. I have trouble sleeping at night, so I know what I'll do with myself. I'm going to bed with that.
Yeah.
But one of the key things you said at the start was you trust a funny person, and that's very true. A lot of my patients laugh at me. So I would like to invite Graham to present you with a small gift for tonight's performance. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, Robin. Robin has been a great supporter of us in Northland up here with our Toastmasters meetings. He came up about 4 years ago. We organised a special dinner for him to promote our club. And he didn't ask to be charged, which was lucky because we didn't have any money. And we gave him a bottle of wine for his efforts. So I thought this time we organised a big event for 300 people for him. We'd give him a bottle of wine and a card. So here we go. Thanks so much, Robin.